Ladies and gentlemen, a world addicted to noise, constant updates, endless opinions, and the pressure to overshare silence has become a revolutionary act. Silence isn't weakness, it's not timidity, it's not passivity. Silence for a woman is power. Let me ask you this, have you ever watched the storm from behind a glass window? The thunder roars, the wind screams, the rain lashes down, but there you are, calm and untouched, behind the shield of silence. That's what it feels like when a woman masters the art of quiet strength. She moves through chaos without being consumed by it. She doesn't respond to every insult, every assumption, every expectation. She doesn't have to. Her silence speaks louder than noise ever could. The truth is, people don't fear loudness, they fear unpredictability. They're not disturbed by what's visible, they're threatened by what's hidden. A woman who talks too much is easy to track. But a woman who moves in silence, she's unstoppable because she's unreadable. That's power. The power of silence is that it gives a woman space to think clearly, to plan precisely, to heal quietly, and then to grow deeply. When you're constantly explaining yourself, defending your choices, and announcing new plans, you give people a front row seat to your life, and not everyone sitting in those seats is clapping for you. Some are silently rooting for your failure. When you embrace silence, you remove the distractions. You stop feeding the opinions that don't pay your bills or build your dreams. You take control of your narrative not by shouting louder, but by saying less. And here's what most people don't realize. Silence requires strength. Anyone can rant. Anyone can react. But to stay quiet when you're provoked, to withhold when you're tempted to overexpose, that's discipline. That's self-mastery. That's emotional intelligence. Silence is where clarity lies. Think of it. Some of your deepest breakthroughs didn't come in moments of noise, but in stillness. When the world got quiet and you finally heard yourself. That whisper in your heart that said, keep going, even when no one else understood. That sacred moment of strength when you decided to walk away, not because you were weak, but because you were done. That's the power of silence. It's where truth reveals itself, not the world's truth, but yours. Some people confuse silence with invisibility. But let me tell you something, flowers don't make noise when they bloom, but they still command attention. A woman doesn't have to announce her worth for it to exist. She doesn't need applause to feel successful. She doesn't need approval to feel valid. The power of silence is that it makes room for authenticity. You stop performing, you start becoming. Think of the women who've left the greatest impact on this world. Not all of them had to shout. Many of them led in whispers and actions and quiet revolutions. They weren't loud, but they were unforgettable. They didn't need the spotlight to shine. They were the light. When a woman moves in silence, she confuses those who depend on drama to feel alive. She frustrates those who thrive on control, gossip, and chaos. She unsettles the insecure and inspires the courageous. Because her silence says, you don't get access to every part of me. And that's powerful. So to every woman listening, don't be afraid to retreat. Don't feel guilty for holding things back. Don't apologize for protecting your peace. Your silence isn't emptiness, it's strategy. It's where your future is being formed, your healing is happening, your power is gathering. When you rise, let it shock them. Let your silence be the suspense before the breakthrough. Let your stillness be the build-up before the storm. Because when a woman chooses silence, she doesn't lose her voice, she reclaims her strength. There's a certain kind of silence that feels dangerous not because it's empty, but because it's full of purpose. That's the kind of silence a woman needs when she's planning her next move. You see, in a world obsessed with watching, judging, and commenting, women are often expected to live out loud. Every dream, every step, every idea shared, picked apart, questioned. We live in a time where people feel entitled to know your every intention. But let me tell you something that could save your peace. Not everyone deserves access to your future. A woman's next move is not a topic for conversation. It's not a poll for opinions. It's not a performance for applause. It's a sacred strategic decision, one that needs protection, not exposure. Have you ever noticed what happens the moment you share an idea? Suddenly voices flood in. That's too risky. Are you sure you can do that? What if you fail? And those voices, they don't always come from enemies. Sometimes they come from people you love. Friends, family, even people who mean well, but intention doesn't always equal understanding. People can only see your vision through the lens of their own limitations. What looks possible to you might look impossible to them. And if you're not careful, their doubt becomes your inner voice. Their fear becomes your hesitation. Their disbelief becomes your silence, not the empowering kind, but the defeated kind. That's why wise women move in silence. Not because they're scared, but because they're sure. Because they know their next move is too important to be diluted by doubt, too delicate to be crushed by criticism, and too divine to be discussed prematurely. Let's be honest, some people don't want to see you rise. It's not always about hate. Sometimes it's envy. Sometimes it's discomfort. Your ambition reflects their lack of action. Your progress confronts their stagnation. Your glow challenges the parts of them they've left in the dark. And when your next move threatens their comfort, they'll try to sabotage it, sometimes with smiles, sometimes with silence, and sometimes with sharp words disguised as concern. But when you hide your next move, you take back control. You stop seeking permission. You stop needing approval. You stop giving people the power to influence decisions they were never qualified to make in the first place. Hiding your next move doesn't mean hiding forever. It just means protecting the process until it's strong enough to stand on its own. Think about a seed in the ground. It doesn't bloom in public. It grows in the dark, in silence, underground. But when it finally rises strong, rooted, and ready, it's unstoppable. That's how your next move should be. Hidden. Nurtured. Protected. And here's the truth that might sting a little. The more people you invite into your plans, the more you invite distractions. Not everyone will discourage you outright. Some will just slow you down with questions, comparisons, and small-minded suggestions. You'll find yourself explaining, justifying, defending, and suddenly you're no longer focused on executing your vision managing other people's opinions of it. But when a woman hides her next move, she creates space. Space to think, space to pivot, space to evolve. She doesn't owe anyone a step-by-step breakdown of her progress. She just keeps walking, and when the time is right, she arrives, bold, prepared, unbothered, unapologetic, because here's the magic: when people can't predict you, they can't prepare for you. When they don't know what you're about to do, they can't block it. They can't copy it. They can't compete with it. That mystery, that unpredictability, it becomes your armor, it becomes your edge, it becomes your power. So to every woman listening, protect your next move like it's your lifeline. Because it is. Guard it, grow it. And when the time comes, reveal it only through results. Let them see the finished product, not the fragile blueprint. Let them witness the breakthrough, not the brainstorming. Let your success be the announcement. Your next move isn't meant for everyone. It's meant for impact. And impact doesn't need an audience to be powerful. It just needs purpose in your silence until it's ready to be seen. In the tug of war between logic and emotion, women are constantly navigating a battlefield that's both internal and external. Society tells her to be open, vulnerable, authentic, but also tells her not to be too emotional, not too private, not too closed off. It's a trap, a moving target, and that's why understanding the psychology of privacy is not just a luxury, it's a necessity. Emotion tells a woman, share, let it out. Someone needs to hear your truth. And sometimes that's healing. Sometimes that releases medicine. But logic whispers something else. Logic says, wait, who are you talking to? Are they safe? Are they worthy? What are they going to do with what you reveal? You see, there's a psychology behind privacy that most people overlook, especially when it comes to women. From a young age, women are conditioned to be emotionally accessible, to open up, to empathize, to connect. But connection without boundaries is a fast track to being drained, misunderstood, and even manipulated. Because here's the truth, not everyone deserves your inner world. Privacy isn't about secrecy. It's about sovereignty. It's about taking back control of what parts of you are shared and with whom. Emotion may push you to open the doors, but logic tells you which door should stay closed and why. You know what's dangerous? Emotional impulsivity in the wrong room. Pouring your heart out to someone who only listens to collect information. Confiding your pain to someone who doesn't have the emotional maturity to handle it. That's how emotional exposure becomes emotional regret. A woman who learns how to filter her emotions through logic gains a kind of power that can't be shaken. She doesn't suppress her feelings, she processes them. She doesn't isolate, she chooses wisely. She doesn't hide, she protects. That's not fear, that's emotional intelligence. And yet the world labels a private woman as cold, distant, hard to read. But maybe what they really mean is, she's not giving me access, and I don't like that. Maybe what they're really saying is, she's not letting me in, and that threatens my control. When a woman lives with logic at the wheel and emotion in the passenger seat, she becomes dangerous in the best way. She's not reactive, she's responsive. She doesn't beg to be understood, she chooses what to share. And when she doesn't reveal for validation, she reveals when it aligns with her values, her healing, and her sense of self-respect. Privacy is the pause between stimulus and response. It's the space where she decides, do they deserve this piece of me? And sometimes that pause is the difference between building trust or building regret. Let's talk psychology. Humans are wired for connection, yes, but we're also wired for protection. The need for privacy isn't weakness, it's survival. It's a filter against psychological harm. Oversharing, especially in emotionally charged moments, creates vulnerability without discernment. And that's not intimacy, that's exposure. Women are more likely to share personal experiences in hopes of connection, but studies show that not everyone on the receiving end responds with empathy. In fact, many respond with judgment, superiority, or disinterest. That emotional misfire, it's deeply damaging, and it leaves women with the silent trauma of being unseen, unheard, and unprotected. That's why every woman must ask herself, am I sharing for connection or for approval? Am I revealing truth or seeking relief? Because there's a difference between being expressive and being exposed. One builds trust, the other builds regret. A private woman is not closed off, she's guarded with grace. She's not. Emotionally numb, she's emotionally discerning. She's not withholding, she's waiting. Waiting for safety, waiting for sincerity, waiting for the kind of space where her truth can land softly, not be twisted or weaponized. Privacy, when rooted in logic, becomes emotional self-care. It's the boundary that protects the heart from being fractured by careless hands. And let me tell you, there's nothing more powerful than a woman who knows what parts of her are sacred and refuses to give them away cheaply. Because when logic leads and emotion aligns, that's not just privacy, that's power. Not every smile is sincere. Not every cheer is real. And not every person who hears your dream wants to see it succeed. Dreams are fragile in their early stages, easily bruised by doubt, easily derailed by jealousy. That's why a wise woman doesn't just dream, she protects her dreams. She nurtures them in silence, away from gossip, away from envy, away from premature opinions. The sad truth is, sabotage often comes disguised as concern. Are you sure that's realistic? What if it doesn't work? But underneath those questions, insecurity, jealousy, fear. So protect your vision. Guard your passion. Share it only with those who water your spirit, not those who poke holes in your confidence. Because a dream exposed too early is a dream at risk. But a dream protected, that's a dream destined. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's a strategy. A calculated, intentional move that keeps power where it belongs, in your hands. A woman who masters silence doesn't waste words on people who won't understand. She doesn't react to every insult, explain every move, or reveal every thought. Why? Because silence confuses the enemy, protects the plan, and commands respect. She knows that the loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest sometimes. It's the quietest one, watching, learning, and preparing. In a world that wants your every detail, silence becomes your shield, not because you're hiding, but because you're building. And when it's time, you won't need noise to make an impact. Your results will speak for you. Real growth doesn't always happen in the spotlight. It happens in silence, in solitude, in the moments no one sees. A woman's most powerful transformations often happen behind closed doors while the world thinks she's quiet. She's quiving. While they assume she's stuck, she's leveling up, healing, learning, rebuilding. Growth in private is sacred. It frees her from judgment, comparison, and pressure. It gives her room to make mistakes, to rise without eyes watching, and to return stronger, not for show, but for herself. So if you're growing silently, keep going. The world may not clap now, but when you reemerge, they'll wonder how you did it. Because some of the most powerful versions of a woman are built in private. Don't announce the plan, announce the plantry. A powerful woman doesn't need to prove anything mid-process. She doesn't seek validation while she's building. She stays quiet, focused, and consistent. Because the real proof It's in the results. When you win, let your success speak. Let your glow be the reply. Let your peace be the evidence. Because showing them after, one leaves no room for doubt, interference, or sabotage. It's already done. You don't owe the world a preview, just a finished product. Thank you.